Hey guys, my name is Matsumiyo, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for that comes from Matthew, and it is, what do you think about a defensive operator in Siege that can place down a smoke machine that acts like a permanent smoke nade until the machine is destroyed? The sight denial could be interesting. If the machine is shot, the smoke disperses like a normal smoke grenade. That is pretty creative. So this would have a lot of applications. First of all, it would just be a deterrent for anyone who wants to push through a doorway. If you kind of place this out of line of sight slightly, but the smoke is pluming so that it blocks the entire door frame, that means the enemy can't really shoot at the device, and they're either gonna have to EMP it or gonna have to charge on through. If you guys ever charge through a smoke nade, you know that you're at a pretty large disadvantage. If anyone's watching that entrance, they're gonna see you way before you see them. That's just kind of how the mechanics work, and so it's probably going to be a pretty easy kill for them. This could also just be a great way at blocking lines of sight. Now, of course, there are other gadgets that will do that. You got castle barricades and the normal barricades, but a lot of times the enemy will drone you out. You may not hear the drone. They'll walk up to that normal barricade, melee it really quickly, and then take you down. If you had this smoke machine, you can still have the barricade there, but if they melee it or just break it down completely, they're not going to be able to see you, and that's going to give you that time to react and maybe adapt to the situation. Now, this gadget would come with some pretty big drawbacks, and one of the biggest ones is that this would be Glaz's dream. Glaz, of course, wants to take advantage of smoke as often as he can, and if a defender is basically giving him a smoke screen that he can use at all times and never goes away as long as you don't take it out with a Thatcher or shoot it with your weapon, this would be a pretty big counter to that operator. Another thing we have to consider is that I feel like this would be a pretty easy gadget to counter. There's a lot of ways at taking out gadgets in Rainbow Six Siege. You can have a Twitch go on in, you can have a Thatcher EMP, you can just open up a wall that's adjacent to the smoke a little bit further away, and while yes, you're not going through the doorway anymore, it's not blocking that giant hole that you just made, and you can walk on through with no hindrance. And so I think for those two reasons, it'd be really interesting to see how viable this guy would be in Rainbow Six Siege. If he's amazing, and it's actually quite difficult to take care of his gadget, it really does block line of sight and make it difficult for enemies to push the objective through that smoke, well then I can only imagine that Glaz would see a higher pick rate, and that actually might even out his power because it is a direct counter. And so all in all, I love the idea. It's really creative. I just don't know how viable it would be in the long term. The next question is, what are your thoughts on EA removing microtransactions temporarily from Star Wars Battlefront 2? Well, I will admit that I was not expecting this whatsoever. I kind of figured that after they made the reduction in the price of the heroes, that they were going to call it good after that. This is sort of a PR move that companies have made over the years. They push the boundaries, and they know they're pushing the boundaries. They know that their player base is going to be upset, but then they push it back ever so slightly so that they can claim that we're listening to the community and don't be upset with us anymore because we've made these changes. They don't push it back as far as people wanted it to be, but because they have made some changes, they can have the good PR that they were listening. I was not expecting them to even go further than that and completely remove microtransactions or the ability to pay for loot boxes in this game. Now, the cynical part of me is thinking that they're just going to reintroduce these paid loot boxes in a couple of weeks when the bad press goes down. They may make some small changes to the progression. They have mentioned that they're going to go in and rework it to make it more fair, and it's not required to buy these loot boxes, but those changes may not be enough like we just talked about. They reintroduce them and then call it good once again. That is something that I fear. That said though, I think the reason why I was so surprised by this move is that they're gonna make the most money from these loot boxes when the game releases. When everyone's playing it for that first couple of weeks or for that first month, that's when the game is hyped. That's when people are playing on it. And so if they do reintroduce this in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months, the player base has died down significantly, and they're not gonna get as much money from those loot boxes. And so the fact that they have made this decision basically shows us that EA realizes that they're gonna take a financial hit. They're just not gonna make as much money. At the end of the day, they are a business. They are about making money. they're not going to make as much profit. And so hopefully this is kind of them showing us that they're serious and they really want to make improvements. Now, once again, the cynical part of me is thinking, okay, that's all good and great, EA, but I have a hard time believing that you really had good intentions from the very beginning, because every single aspect of this game was trying to incentivize you to buy loot boxes. You can look at every single aspect of Star Wars Battlefronts. They all make it slow enough. The progression is at a crawl to force you, or at least incentivize you, to make those purchases with real world money. It's really hard to believe you if that was your intention from the very beginning. And so I guess my thoughts on it overall is that I'm glad that they're trying to make some improvements. I'm really hoping that it's going to be significant change, but it is going to be a wait and see. The next question comes from Jordan, and it is, what do you think about being able to spin 360 degrees while rappelling in Siege? Yes, I cannot express how frustrating it is where you know, or you have a feeling that someone's gonna run out from a doorway behind you, and there's no way for you to retaliate whatsoever. You just cannot simply turn your body far enough to be able to take them down. I've had so many occasions where someone has run on out, and that was the reason why I died. It wasn't because my aim was terrible. I even predicted that it was happening. Like, I heard the sound go off. I was already reacting to the situation, but I just didn't have the angle from the rappel to do anything about it. And so yeah, I'm 100% on board with this idea. I'm not exactly sure why Ubisoft designed it this way to begin with. I mean, maybe it was for realism. You gotta keep your feet planted on the wall while you're rappelling on up. But even in reality, I feel like if someone was coming from behind you, you would flip around to try to retaliate. You're not just gonna keep your feet planted just for the sake of keeping them there. Maybe this was an animation issue. Maybe they didn't want you to be able to turn all the way 180 degrees to look behind because they would need to add in more animations, or maybe just those animations didn't look very good. That's also a possibility. And so yeah, the fact that you're already really vulnerable up there, you have no cover if someone runs outside, I think it's more than reasonable for you to have at least a little bit more wiggle room to look around and retaliate when someone does try to run outside and take you down. The next question is, what are your thoughts on operator costs decreasing as we get more seasons? So I feel like I've answered this in a past Sunday Mailbox, but I wanted to bring it up again because I really do think that something eventually needs to be done. As we move on over into year 3 and they start bringing us even more operators, I think that they need to give us a price reduction on those year 1 operators. For someone who's been here since the very beginning, it hasn't seemed like that much of a daunting task, but for anyone who's new to the game, and this game is getting new players every single day, if you need to get 16 of year 1 and year 2 operators, that is 400,000 renown. According to their statistics, that's going to take you about 16 days of just playing the game non-stop, 16 days total, just to get every single one of them. That's a lot of game time. And while I know they're still a business, they need to make money, they need to get those purchases so they can fund future projects, I think at least for those year 1 operators, a price reduction doesn't seem too ridiculous. We don't ever want it to get to the point where people don't jump in for the first time because they know they just don't have the time to simply grind out all of that renown to experience the full game. And so I'm really crossing my fingers that Ubisoft will do something like this in the future. If they dropped those year 1 DLC operators in half, I think that would go a long way, and potentially could also just help out the longevity of the game as well, because new people aren't just overwhelmed with the amount of content. The next question is, with the current trend of releasing a video for each new operator, what is your opinion on Ubisoft adding the operator videos to the game, similar to the base operator videos? I love that idea. I know there was a bunch of people that were disappointed that we never got more CGI trailers for all the DLC operators, but I think that this would be a fair compromise. Those CGI trailers, I'm sure, cost a lot. They had to outsource it. I think they got, a special CGI studio to do them for them. It cost a pretty penny, and so it makes sense that they wouldn't be able to bring anything like that to the table, but those videos are pretty cool. The one for Vigil, for example, I think looks incredible. Dokaibi was really cool. And so to add those into the game, I think would be really awesome. Now, the only thing I can think of for why this may not happen is, first of all, it's not really necessary. And also, I don't think that they've done this for all of the DLC operators. If I remember right, I don't think we got really operator videos for Blackbeard or Valkyrie when they first came out. So, I mean, they may have done a video, but nothing like we're getting with this new season. And so while it's awesome now, I feel like if they wanted to have consistency, that would require them to go back, make a new one for all those operators. And of course, that would require time, money, and investment defense, and I don't know if that is something that they would want to go through with. I love the idea, though. I think that would be awesome, but I guess it's not really all that necessary. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Do you like the idea of having an operator on defense that has a smoke machine? Do you think that's a bad idea? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you would like to submit your own question, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.